It was a warm afternoon in the Oak Hills neighborhood, and the sun hung lazily in the sky. The kind of day that made everything feel peaceful, like the world was just going to slow down for a while. People were at home, lawns neatly trimmed, kids playing in the street, everything was as it should be. But all of that changed in a matter of minutes. It started with a fire truck screeching down the road, sirens blaring, lights flashing. Smoke was already curling into the sky, thick and dark like something you see in a disaster movie. But here's where it gets real, because what happened next is something you won't believe. The firefighters pulled up to the front gate, ready to do what they do best: save lives. But instead of a warm welcome or even just a quick, "Hey, help us out," they were met with a blockade. A woman, standing there in a pink velour tracksuit, arms crossed, eyes blazing like the fire was nothing compared to her fury. Her name was Karen Palmer, and she wasn't budging. She wasn't going to let anyone in. Not without HOA authorization. I was already there in my paramedic unit, just finishing up some last-minute checks when the 911 call came in. A fire, they said. Visible smoke, possible electrical issue. It wasn't the first time I'd responded to something in Oak Hills, but this was a whole new level. I'd been to my fair share of HOA disputes, trust me. These people take their rules seriously, but this woman? She took it to an entirely different level. Karen Palmer wasn't just any president of the HOA. She was the queen of the bylaws. And right now, she was making sure those rules were enforced, no matter who it hurt. As the fire truck screeched to a halt, I saw it. She'd parked her silver SUV sideways across the only access road, blocking the firefighters. When Captain Harris tried to approach her, she waved a clipboard around, barking orders as if emergency services needed her permission to do their job. "This is private property," she shouted. "No entry without HOA approval." I could see the tension building. I'm used to dealing with the chaos of fires, but this felt different. It felt personal. "Ma'am, we need to get through," Captain Harris said, his voice trying to remain calm despite the situation. "We're not here for a meeting, we're here to fight a fire." "I don't care if you're the mayor," she spat back. "You're not on the approved list, and your sirens are disrupting the peace." It was surreal, but I had a feeling this wouldn't end like any normal emergency call. The smoke from the fire had been thickening for a few minutes now, and we still couldn't pinpoint exactly where it was coming from. I knew the area Oak Hills was made up of identical houses that looked like they were copied from the same template. No distinguishing features. But I could tell, the fire? It was close. It wasn't just drifting in from somewhere else. It was right here, and something about it was different. So, I did what I do best: I grabbed my drone. I've used it before to spot fires from above, and this time, it paid off. I launched it up into the air, scanning rooftops, alleyways, anywhere that might give us a hint as to where the smoke was coming from. And that's when it happened. The smoke wasn't drifting from a neighbor's house. It wasn't even coming from anywhere outside of Karen's place. It was billowing out of her chimney. Karen had no idea. None. I radioed Captain Harris immediately. "Captain, you won't believe this," I said. "It's coming from Karen's house." There was a moment of silence on the other end. The fire crew was already on edge from the delays, but now the situation just took a wild turn. "What do you mean it's her house?" Harris asked, his voice sharp with disbelief. "Are you sure?" "Look at the chimney," I said. "It's her house. The smoke is coming from her basement." You'd think that would have been the moment she realized how serious things were, but no. When we made our way to the door, she still tried to block us. She stood on the porch, arms wide, shouting, "This is illegal. You can't just barge into my house." But the fire? It didn't care about her rules. And neither did we. We pushed past her, the heat slamming into us like a wall the moment we entered her home. It was suffocating. The basement door was already smoking, and the stench of burning wires filled the air. As we moved downstairs, we found the Sauersea spa heater, an electrical mess of batteries and coils, something you might expect to see at a backwoods farm, not a well-kept HOA house. But here's where things really got insane. Karen, despite all the obvious signs of negligence, insisted it was all part of her spa system. She told us she bought the heater from an engineer in Kentucky, that it was military grade. Yeah, right? Military grade heating systems don't catch fire, lady. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of engineer sells you that kind of setup. And it got worse. As we were wrapping up the fire suppression, we found something that made my stomach turn. A large bag of sawdust, a box of old lithium batteries right next to the heater. That's when I knew. This wasn't just an accident. This was reckless endangerment, and it could have cost the entire block. But Karen? She wasn't backing down. She kept screaming about her rights, how we had no right to enter her home. Even when we were trying to clear the fire, she was on her phone, calling her lawyer, ready to sue everyone in sight. But as we moved through the house, we found even more shady financial transactions, documents, and records of HOA funds being misused. I turned to Captain Harris, and I said, "This woman's been running a racket. This isn't just negligence, it's criminal." We had enough evidence, but she was about to make it worse. As we were trying to finish up the investigation, Karen charged at Harris, knocking his phone out of his hand. She was out of control. And when she smashed his phone against the ground, that was when we knew this wasn't just a fire anymore. It was assault. Things escalated quickly. Karen tried to lock us inside the house, trapping us in the smoke-filled basement while she ran upstairs. We had to break through the door to get out. And when we finally did, she tried to explain away everything like she could talk her way out of it. "I'm the HOA president. I have rights." Well, Karen, your rights don't include nearly blowing up the neighborhood. And you certainly don't have the right to block emergency responders. We weren't letting her off the hook that easy. The next day, the neighborhood was buzzing. News crews showed up, and Karen's name spread like wildfire, no pun intended. People couldn't stop talking about the HOA president who tried to block firefighters from saving her own home. And while she hid behind her lawyer, we started digging deeper into her actions. Turns out, Karen wasn't just a power-hungry control freak, she was skimming from the HOA funds, using her position to push personal vendettas, fining people for the most ridiculous reasons. All of it exposed. It was a scandal. The HOA meeting that followed? It was electric. For the first time in years, the community came together. People who had been too scared to speak up were finally standing tall. The vote to remove Karen was unanimous. And just like that, the reign of terror she'd built came crashing down. But it wasn't just about removing her. It was about the community reclaiming their neighborhood. People were laughing again. Kids were playing without worrying about fines for their toys. And even the people who'd been too quiet for too long were stepping up, ready to take the reins. It was the moment they all realized Oak Hills wasn't Karen's neighborhood anymore. It belonged to them. And as the meeting wrapped up, one of the neighbors placed a broken flamingo from Karen's yard at the entrance. It was a symbol of their Tory, a symbol that, no matter how hard someone tried to control them, they would fight back, together. So, let me ask you, what would you have done if you were in their shoes? Would you have let Karen get away with it? Or would you have stood up for your neighborhood? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about what happened in Oak Hills. Because this story isn't just about one woman, it's about every community that's been stifled by someone who thinks their rules are more important than the people they're supposed to serve. What happens when the rules go too far? Tell me what you think.